Imagine this. You're boarding a plane, ready for your vacation or long-awaited holiday. But suddenly one of the engines explodes, and the aircraft plunges straight into the ocean. Let's find out. Is it possible to survive such a nightmare? And what exactly would you have to do to stay alive? A. In the endless waters of the ocean, a young woman is drowning. Luckily, it's just a nightmare. A terrifying dream of an overweight, middle-aged man. He waters his houseplants and listens to the news. This man lives alone, in a small trailer in the middle of the desert. Meanwhile, a group of people is waiting to board their flight. At a small local airport, it's a flight from Los Angeles to Los Cabos. Two friends, Jed and Kyle, are sure they're going to have the best vacation ever. Soon Jed's girlfriend arrives. Her name is Ava, and she's the daughter of a famous politician. That's why she always travels with her personal bodyguard, Brandon. It's the same man we saw at the beginning of the story. He's good at reading people and knows how to protect Ava from any danger. Also on this flight, an elderly couple with their granddaughter Rosa. On the way to the plane, the little girl drops her favorite stuffed toy. Ava admits that she wants to drop out of college. She dreams of starting her own business, but she still doesn't have the courage to do it. Rosa notices her missing toy and runs back to find it. She accidentally bumps into Ava, and coffee spills all over the young woman's dress. Ava yells at the clumsy child, and Rosa bursts into tears. Ava picks up the girl's teddy bear and hands it back to her. The little girl thanks her, and Ava smiles. Brandon tells Ava that she's old enough to travel alone now, but Ava reminds him that her mother died in a plane crash, and ever since, she's been terrified of flying. Being next to Brandon makes her feel much safer. Soon everyone boards the plane and takes their seats. A flight attendant named Danila shows how to use the oxygen mask, life jacket, and whistle. The plane takes off, and the passengers relax. Some chat, some hug, some flip through magazines. Kyle keeps making jokes about the flight attendant, which annoys Ava. The elderly couple gives Rosa some candy, and the girl smiles at Ava. Everyone seems happy and calm. Kyle mentions that the plane looks really old. That's probably why there are so few passengers. Suddenly, the entire aircraft starts shaking. The pilot announces that everything is under control. They've just flown through a flock of birds, but no one realizes that one of the birds was sucked into the engine. It catches fire, and the engine fails. The pilot urges everyone to fasten their seatbelts. Pieces of the broken engine burst into the cabin. There's a sudden depressurization. Some passengers are sucked out through a massive hole in the fuselage. Panic breaks out. The plane keeps losing altitude, and moments later, it crashes into the Pacific Ocean, slamming against underwater rocks. Ava, Jed, and Kyle survive. They were sitting in the rear section, a part of the fuselage that remains mostly intact. The flight attendant Danila, the little girl Rosa, her grandmother, and Brandon also make it out alive. Rosa's grandmother was underwater for too long. Danila performs CPR, and the elderly woman finally regains consciousness, only to learn that her husband didn't survive. She and Rosa cry. Brandon tells everyone not to lose hope. He asks Ava to monitor the rising water level. Danila reports that the pilot managed to send a distress signal before the crash. Rescue teams might already be searching, but they're running out of oxygen. A spare oxygen tank is located in the flooded section of the plane. Brandon dives into the wreckage, swimming between floating seats, sadly passing the lifeless bodies of passengers. As he passes a huge hole in the fuselage, a tiger shark attacks him. He barely manages to return to the survivors. Seriously wounded, Brandon hands over the oxygen tank and apologizes to Ava for not being able to protect her. Moments later, the shark drags him into the dark depths. The survivors move to the very end of the plane, the galley area in the tail section. Kyle's arm is broken. Luckily, Rosa's grandmother used to be a military nurse. She creates a makeshift splint from seat parts. It hurts badly, but it saves Kyle's arm. Above the Pacific Ocean, a rescue helicopter searches for the crash site. The pilots doubt anyone could have survived. Meanwhile, the survivors argue about what to do next. Ava says They only have oxygen for 3 or 4 hours. Jed, who studies engineering, warns that the fuselage might soon collapse. Under the deep-sea pressure, sharks circle outside, feeding on the bodies in the wreck. It's a horrifying sight. Then the plane shifts again, sliding down an underwater cliff and hanging over a dark abyss. If it falls there, there's no coming back. The survivors realize they need to escape before it's too late. Rosa remembers something. She once heard that sharks are afraid of air bubbles. That gives them an idea. They'll use the air from their life vests to scare the sharks away. They plan to find the scuba gear stored in the luggage hold, put on the masks and tanks, and swim to the surface. Above, the rescue helicopter spots debris in the ocean. 2 rescue divers jump into the water to investigate. The survivors see them through the windows and wave frantically. But the sharks notice the divers too. One diver is dragged away, the other disappears. The survivors hope he managed to swim inside the wreck. Even if he didn't survive, his oxygen tank might still be usable. Ava and the others dive into the wreckage to find him. But suddenly, a tiger shark attacks Jed. He screams. The shark bites off his leg. Rosa's grandmother makes a tourniquet out of seat belts and stops the bleeding. Jed tries to joke, saying he'll never compete in triathlons again. But at least he lost some weight. Still, his condition worsens. He goes into shock and dies shortly after. Ava cries uncontrollably, but can't do anything to save him. The plane tilts even more. Soon it'll break apart and sink for good. The water keeps rising. They're running out of time. They prepare to swim up. Kyle confesses he's terrified of water. When he was a kid, he almost drowned in a swimming pool. The others encourage him to face his fear. It's the only way to survive. They all put on the scuba gear. As they're about to leave, the cockpit breaks off and falls into the abyss below. Luckily, the tail section remains stable. For now, Ava gives one oxygen hose to Rosa, and the other is shared among the adults. Rosa's grandmother tells Ava to take care of her granddaughter. She admits she'll stay behind. She's too old and weak to make the swim. Ava, Kyle, Rosa, and Danila swim through the flooded fuselage. Near the exit, a shark appears. Ava releases air bubbles from her life vest, scaring it away. Kyle is the last to swim out. The shark attacks him, and he doesn't make it. While the shark feeds, Ava, Danila, and Rosa escape the wreck. They find the missing diver. He didn't survive, but his oxygen tank is still intact. Ava gives both tanks to Danila and Rosa. She inflates their vests, and they quickly rise toward the surface. Ava follows, but a shark appears again. She dodges it, and at that moment, the plane wreck finally collapses and falls into the dark abyss, taking the shark with it. Ava runs out of air, but her life vest keeps her afloat. She reaches the surface and regains consciousness. Floating nearby, she sees Rosa's teddy bear. She grabs it, but sees no one around. Ava calls out Rosa's name. No answer. Moments later, a rescue helicopter arrives and pulls Ava from the water. On board, she sees Danila and Rosa. They made it. Ava bursts into tears. No one else survived. She hands Rosa her teddy bear. The girl quietly says she doesn't need it anymore and tosses it back into the ocean. A symbol of goodbye to her grandparents. The pilot radios the base, reporting that they've rescued the governor's daughter. A true miracle. Ava weeps silently as the helicopter flies toward safety. She's alive, but she's lost everyone she loved.